So for lesson 5 in our Excel lessons, we are going to play around a little bit with having multiple worksheets within one file. So every workbook, when you open it, by default has one worksheet. When you are working with a large amount of data, there are going to be multiple reasons why you need to create multiple worksheets to help you organize your workbook, make it easier to find content. You can also group worksheets to quickly add information to multiple worksheets at the same time. So you will, without a doubt, have a workbook that has many, many different worksheets within it as you progress in your fashion business career. So the first thing I want to say for this particular assignment, you can go ahead and you can open up the Excel file that accompanies this lesson in Canvas. And if you want to follow along as you're doing it, feel free to do so. However, your assessment will just get added on to the end of whatever you end up doing of this with the file as another worksheet that gets added, and then you do some things to it. So, but let's just go over some basics of the worksheets. So if you are in, you can go ahead and open up lesson 5 if you want. That is the spreadsheet that I am using right now as I go through this and give examples. This particular spreadsheet has data for this particular company for every month of the year, and we just create additional worksheets for each additional month. So in order to add a new worksheet, if you have never done this in Excel before, you will go down to the bottom of the spreadsheet where the tabs are, and the tabs are for each of the sheets, and you will locate and select the new sheet button near the bottom right corner of the Excel window. So you're at the bottom of the program, and there's always going to be a tab here that's called there's always going to be a button right here that has a plus sign on it. You go ahead and click on that plus sign, and it's going to create a new sheet for you. If you do not rename that, it will just by default be called sheet 1. If you add another worksheet, it will be sheet 2, etc. And you'll just subsequently have all of that. So that's how we get the start of a new worksheet. It will be blank, and none of the formatting that you've applied to any of the previous worksheets will apply. In this case, if you've just gone through this basic way of getting a new worksheet, it will be all default formatting. If you want to copy a worksheet, so you want the formatting, you want to duplicate the content of one worksheet to another, you just can copy an existing worksheet. This is extremely helpful if every month the format of your worksheet is pretty much the same. It's just your numbers are going to change. You probably will want to just copy an existing worksheet so you don't have to take the time of reformatting everything. So in this case, I want to create a worksheet which will eventually become my December worksheet, but I want to use my November format to help me do that. So to do that, I go to the worksheet that I want to copy. I right-click on the tab at the bottom, and I find Move or Copy as my option from that menu. If you are wanting to actually physically move that tab, you select Move and you tell it where to go. But in this case, we are saying Copy. So we want to copy November. We want to create a whole new worksheet that will look exactly the same as November. And then I need to choose where that sheet will appear, either before November, after November, or at the very end of all of the worksheets. In this case, we are going to choose Move to End. So you can see that here. I've copied it, I'm moving it to the end, and that means it will appear after sheet 1. I could also tell it to move before sheet 1, and then it would appear right before November. The important thing about this, though, is to click the Create a Copy. If you don't click Create a Copy, it's just going to move your November worksheet, and it's not going to have created that copy for you. So then you go ahead and click OK. and you should see a new duplicated worksheet at the end. You can also copy a worksheet to an entirely different workbook. Just know that. We're not going to do that today, but you can. So in this case, you can see that November's worksheet has been moved to the end of all the worksheets, and it is actually called November 2 because it is a copy. So you will then want to rename the worksheet. And in this case, you just are going to, again, right click, and you're going to find the rename option, and you will click that, and then you'll just type in whatever name you want to call it. So probably logically it will be December in this case, but and then you click anywhere outside of that worksheet tab, or press enter, and the worksheet will be renamed. So now we see December. If you want to move a worksheet, so I had told Excel that I wanted it to be at the end of all my tabs, but then I realized I actually want it to be right after November. So all I need to do in that case is I just need to click and drag. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag that tab, and I'm going to slide it over so that it's after November, before sheet 1, and I can see that I've gotten it to the desired location. Releasing your mouse and it will be there. So very straightforward. It's never anything to panic about. If you move a tab or you didn't intend to move a tab, you can quickly move it back. Not a big deal. One of the things that you can also do with your worksheet tabs is change the color of the tabs. People don't do this very often, but it can be really helpful, particularly like in the world of buying. We tend to work in 6-month chunks, and so maybe you want to have the first 6 months of your fiscal year be all those tabs be one color, and then all of the tabs for the other 6 months be another color. There's a variety of reasons why you might want to change the worksheet tab. So again, you will right click on whatever tab that you're wanting to change the color, and this time you're going to go to tab color and select the color that you want. You have all the options of doing more colors, etc., that we have for fonts and fills and things like that. And you've changed the color. Now, just a heads up of kind of a little bit of a warning, the worksheet tab color is considerably less noticeable when that worksheet is selected. So if I'm still in the worksheet that I changed the color of the tab of, I might be like, oh, that's not really the color that I was expecting it to be. Just select another worksheet, and then you'll be able to see the true color of that a little bit more accurately. So in this case, I changed a tab that was called Expenses Summary to blue. And then if you only have one tab a different color, that's fine. I don't use this feature very often, but in the world of corporate, it does become useful. You can also delete a worksheet, same way, right click on the worksheet that you are trying to delete, and then go up into delete. And you can see in here, there are some other options here. You can hide sheets, you can protect sheets. So just, putz around, see what those things do so that you get familiar and comfortable with your options for your worksheets. If anytime you want to view a different worksheet, I think by now it's pretty straightforward. You can simply click the tab to switch to that worksheet. However, sometimes with larger workbooks, this can become tedious as it requires quite a bit of scrolling through all the tabs to find the one that you want. So instead, you can right-click the scroll arrows, which are at the very lower left corner of your Excel file. They're always visible, they're always there. So you can right click, and from there you'll get a dialog box that will pop up, and this shows all of the various different tabs. And so then you can double click on the one that you want to jump to. So if you have like a spreadsheet with 50 or more tabs, that's actually a very large spreadsheet, but say you did, it would be easier just to right click on these arrows, get this drop down menu, and double click to get to the slide that you are trying to get to. Another thing you might want to do or need to do is group and ungroup worksheets. So grouping, then you guys understand how grouping works because you group things all the time when you're working in Adobe or Canva. Same concept. It allows you to move things, apply concepts, formulas, etc. to multiple worksheets at one time. You can also, so that means that any changes that you make to a worksheet in a group will be made to every worksheet in that group. So to group worksheets, select the first worksheet that you want to include in the worksheet group, and then press and hold the control key and select the next worksheet, etc. So select all the worksheets that you want to be grouped together, release the control key, and the worksheets are now grouped. Again, this isn't a feature that I use very often, but it is available and it could be handy in the world of merchandising. So I selected September, I held down my control key, I selected October, November, December. I then release the control key, release my mouse, and those things have now been grouped together. If you ever want to ungroup it, just click on that group and then right click on that group and go to ungroup sheets. Same concept as in Adobe, and you will ungroup those worksheets. So nothing is ever permanent. Okay, so that's some basics of our tabs and our worksheets. And so there is a assessment that goes along with this, and it's in Excel Lesson 5 Practice Workbook. So you'll go ahead and open that up if you haven't already. Rename it according to the instructions on this slide or in Canvas. Complete that assignment and then upload it, and you will be done with Lesson 5.